Greed, my dear ladies and gentlemen, is good. These unforgettable words, spoken by none other than Gordon Gekko, shaped an unescapable dream in my heart at the age of 13 when I first saw the movie Wall Street. And that dream was to build my palace on Wall Street. In addition, I also wanted a yellow convertible and a blue motorboat. I was very, very specific about the colors. And by the age of 26, I had graduated in the top 3% of my class at Cornell University in my MBA, and top 3% in finance and accounting, and had secured that really prestigious banking offer for an all-American bank. Life was exhilarating. I was on top of the world. And that very day, when the results came out, I had to go to the Cornell Medical Center for a regular blood test. And 20 minutes into the procedure, I blacked out. When I came back to consciousness, I found myself on a stretcher. I just heard loud noises around me, and I figured that I was probably being rushed to the emergency room. My hands and feet were stretched out. They were twisted in a very weird fashion. And I felt this most excruciating pain that I'd ever felt in my life. And then my feet started to become numb. I couldn't feel my belly. I tried to speak, but no words would come out of my mouth. And then my eyelids grew heavy. And at that moment, I realized this might be it. And the first thought that went through my mind was who would console my mother. I was in that condition for almost 2 hours. And when I came out of it, the doctors told me that I went through a severe case of vasovagal reaction, that I had been brain dead for a few seconds and had received a miraculous second life. That experience made me understand the fragility of life like nothing else had done before. As I was sitting at the lawn of Cornell University overlooking the Cayuga Lake, tears welled up my eyes as I realized that up until this point in time, I had really not taken life seriously. A calling emerged to give up everything and become a monk, to find the purpose of my existence. Now, I wish I could tell you that I gave up everything and became a monk. But I wasn't brave enough. I mean, how could I? I had worked for 13 years. I had given 44 interviews to be in the position that I was in. And in each one of those interviews, I had said that I wanted to be on the front pages of the Wall Street Journal. My friends, my peers, my juniors respected me tremendously. My family was so proud of me. How could I give up all of that? And no insurance, especially after what I had just been through? And the third, and this was really, really important for me, I knew I would break my mother's heart if I did this. I knew that. And I used to have recurring dreams at night that my mother had died, hearing that I became a monk. I used to wake up in a cold sweat. But at the same time, that experience left something very deep. I couldn't ignore the calling. And so I decided that I would work on Wall Street and live in a monastery. Now, it was very exciting at first. But the rigors of the monastery and the rigors of Wall Street didn't quite align with each other. A 95-hour work week. I didn't work 5 weekends in my 2 years on Wall Street. Didn't work 5 weekends. And in the monastery, required 2 hours of meditation every day. No meat, fish, eggs, no tea or coffee. And the biggest one for bankers, no strip clubs. Now, what was even more difficult, other than the logistics, was the perception that I experienced on both sides that actually made me feel that I didn't fit in either place. The monks thought that I was still attached to the material. I remember coming home at 4 a.m. in the morning one day, and one of the monks with a smile on his face told me, "Why are you going to work so early?" And in the bank, I was smart, I was intelligent, I was hardworking, but I was not quite the banker type. I remember ordering cranberry juice one evening with a bunch of friends at a very high-end pub, and I got really made fun of. It was embarrassing. And to add salt to the injury, I was the only person in my class of 39 associates to be chosen to work for a very prestigious deal for Playboy. I had to browse through internet sites to look at potential acquisition targets for them. And some of my colleagues walked past my cubicle, would look at me and say, "Why do you get to work on all those good deals?" And as ironical as it sounds, it was agonizing. Because I was living this tension every single day of my life. And sometimes I really felt that I needed to make a decision, that I needed to be on one side. But as I got close to it, I felt incomplete. I knew that I was going to be making the decision only because I wanted to escape living that tension. And so I continued. And as I continued to live the tension, that very tension became the crucible that started to distill my inner authenticity. And I realized that all through my life, what I was in search for was my intrinsic value, but I had misplaced it on something that society deemed valuable. And when I came to this realization, going to work was a very different experience. It didn't matter who got the credit. I was just happy doing the work. Finally, when this became very clear, I decided to become a monk full-time, to dedicate my life to discovery, study, and teaching. But there was no background music when it happened. It was just very clear. The day I quit, my managing director, who was a former Israeli army captain, came up to my cubicle and said, "You're making the biggest mistake of your life. I will make you a star." And I just smiled, because that's exactly how the movie Wall Street ends. Thank you.